Okay, welcome to a new episode of Nate's Corner, the show about anything, everything and anything, but MMA, which is reserved for Nate's MMA Corner. Um, so I just got back from the Motley Crue Def Leppard Stadium tour, and I just had to do an episode talking about basically my review and talk about my thoughts on the show. I just saw him at the US Bank Stadium down the street in Minneapolis. It's about a 20-minute drive from here. And yeah, I was super excited being a diehard Motley Crue fan. Super excited about this show. I never thought I would see Motley Crue again live. Let me explain. Okay, so after the um, final tour back in 2015, which I also went to, I thought, okay, I'll give them within a 5 year time gap to come back and do another tour. Um, and it's getting towards that. And if they stick, if they don't tour for 5 years after this final tour, then I know that final tour is really going to stick. You know what I mean? So the band says in 2015 no more tours. I don't believe it because they're a rock band saying that and it's a joke. Um, but then I thought, okay, give them 5 years. If it reaches 5 years and they don't tour, then they probably mean it. Which was reaching that, and then they announced this tour, but then COVID happened, and then that postponed it. And I thought, oh, we may never see this tour. And then by that time, the demand or interest in this tour may dwindle by the time the whole COVID thing wraps up. So, that's where I got the big question mark of, will this tour happen, or will Motley Crue just X the stadium tour, maybe do a solo tour on their own in arenas, maybe. Um, so that was more the question mark. And then, what would that be like? And, would one of the band members die? Health reasons or whatever, you never know. So maybe they'll tour, but not original lineup. Who knows? But anyways, fast forward, this tour does happen. Tommy Lee does apparently break 4 ribs in an accident, and then he did have to sit out. So then it got me thinking, okay, I do plan on going to this tour now, but will he play drums? And then apparently there's been some mishaps with some of the other bands, and so there's a lot of moving parts. And will I make it to this show and see everything I'm supposed to? And luckily for me, on this tour stop in August 14th of 2022 at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, that's exactly what happened. Is every band did everything that they were basically set up to do, and I got their set lists all lined up here. And something that doesn't get talked about, so this stadium tour is Joan, Jett and the Blackhearts, Poison, Motley Crue, Def Leppard, and then it rotates every so often with who's on last, Motley Crue or Def Leppard. Those are the two essentially headliners, and then Joan Jett and the Blackhearts and Poison are like the co-headliners slash openers, whatever you want to call it. But there's actually an opener, a true official opener that you don't really hear about. Their name is, it's a rock band called Classless Act. And I saw some of their music videos on YouTube before going out to see this, and I was like, oh, okay, they seem to have some potential. I'll make it a point to go watch their show on this tour and really give them a chance. I like to give everyone a chance, and every new music from old bands chances as well. I'll get to that a little bit more later, but yeah. So fast forward, it's August 14th, 2022. I'm at the show, and I ended up getting a good seat, 16th row from the stage, which, in a big stadium, that's better than a lot of the crowd. Then, now I will say this: I wish that they put on the ticket when Classless Act hits the stage, because I was wearing my eyeglasses and I went to the bathroom to put on my contacts, thinking I had enough time before Classless Act hit the stage because I was told that on the ticket, show starts at 4:30. Well, it was like 3:55. I started hearing stuff from the PA system. Sounds like a live band, and I go, okay, that's not like generic music they're just playing on a CD to just kind of tie over the crowd. No, that sounds like a band on stage and someone performing. So within 10, 20 seconds or whatever, I just say, you know what, I'll keep my eyeglasses on, put my contacts on later, and just go straight out of the bathroom and go straight to my section and see. And sure enough, Classless Act just hit the stage. So they actually hit the stage just before 4. So I don't know what this whole 4:30 thing on the ticket stub was all about, because Joan Jett was more like 5 by the time she hit the stage, because Class Act was on stage and they had to clear out their stuff and get Joan Jett ready. But anyways, so I got their set list here, and the first Classless Act song did not really impress me at all, to be honest with you. And the lead singer was so annoying. He had this long hair, and he kept, wow, like All American Rejects, but like more on crack looking. And the band was just all over the place, and the songs were just seemed like all over the place. I didn't really care for that first song, and I thought, you know what, I do like some All American Reject songs, and so maybe this band may have some better songs. So then it gets to their second song, and I'm like, you know what, still not impressing me. Sounds almost similar to the first song. Then we get to the third song, and it's like, just whatever. And I go, well, you know what? That's 3 songs. Let's I don't know how many songs they're gonna do, but let's keep going. So then it gets to the next song, and I'm like, man, you know what? We're 4 songs into this band set. I'm not at all impressed. And then lead singer is like, oh, here's our last song. It's called, and he points to the band's logo. It's Classless Act, a song named after the band. And I'm like, thank God this band's wrapping up, because they got one more chance to impress me with a song, which they didn't at all. And yeah, it was just crap. And I was like, okay, this midway into this last song, I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, this band sucks, and I'm glad this is their last song and they're going to be off the stage. So anyhow, yeah, they're over, and yeah, that was pretty much the extent of their set. So then I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I do like some Joan Jett and the Blackhearts songs, and it was roughly, let me bring that back up here. Yeah, it was a little bit of a wait for, not too bad, but reasonable, to get the stage set up for the next band, which is Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And I'm thinking, I like a few of her songs. I guess she's going to do all her big hits. And according to setlist.com, she did 12 tracks, and which is obviously a lot more than Classless Act 5. And the first song, I'm like, it's not bad, it's whatever. Then she gets into her other songs, and I'm just not really feeling it. But yeah, I Hate Myself for Loving You, I Love Rock and Roll, and Bad Reputation. Those are the ones that I know from her as a singer. Hers having sang those songs in the 80s and whatnot. And, those were the highlights for me. The rest was sort of, forgettable. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't, wow, amazing. And she got the crowd pumped a little bit. They're all talented musicians, including herself in this band. Their performances of the songs there's nothing wrong with them. Um, the issue I had is just the songs themselves were just sort of me, except for those three that I remembered and recognized and were good. But I was hoping to hear songs from her that I wasn't familiar with. That I'm like, oh, I'm glad I heard that live, because had I not heard that, I probably never would have came across it. And now I'm going to be more of a fan. Didn't exactly happen, but it has happened with some other bands, and I'll get to that in a bit. So then we get into Poison, who I've seen before in concert, and they hit the stage, and I'm like, okay, I love Poison. I got their greatest hits album. I can name off all their studio albums. I know about their lineup changes. I can name all the band members, all that stuff. I consider myself somewhat of a hard casual Poison fan. And so, I kind of know what to expect from, the band stage show, set list, all that stuff, especially if they're not, doing a full set, which in this case they're a supporting act, and they're not doing a full set. So they hit the stage. They're doing "Look What the Cat Dragged In" to kick off the show, which is something they do pretty much all the time, whether they're headliners or co-headliners. And great opening song. And then they go "Ride the Wind," which is one of my all-time favorite Poison songs, and then "Talk Dirty to Me" and "Your Mama Don't Dance." And then CC does a guitar solo, which is a snippet of Eruption mixed with some other stuff. They do "Fallen Angel." Then there's a drum solo. Ricky Rocket is one of my favorite members of the band. Does a great drum solo. Then they do "Every Rose Has Thorns" and "Thorn" and "Nothing But a Good Time." Now, I will say this, when they always wrap things up with "Nothing But a Good Time," and when they did that, I think Brett said, like, okay, this is our last song, which even if he didn't say that, I don't remember if he said it on this show or not, but they're wrapping up the show. And I'm thinking, okay, wow, that's kind of a short set list, because if you take out the solos, that's only 7 songs. So my only criticism with this Poison set list is I wish that they just took out the drum solo completely and just insert another song, because they have so many good hit songs that if they're only going to do, say, 10 songs, there's easily 10 that the crowd would recognize, like "Unskinny Bop" they could have added in, or "Something to Believe In," or "I Want Action," that are popular songs. I know they're, I don't expect them to do deep cuts on a show like this, but wouldn't mind a couple of those if they're ever in the mood for it. But yeah, and then I felt like maybe the guitar solo, it could have just been shortened down, maybe insert in the middle of a song where CC does something for a minute or so, but then again add another song. I think that could have been a little bit more rewarding for me as a fan, possibly the rest of the audience. Other than that, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. That's not a major complaint. It's only a minor complaint. And yeah, they play for 50 minutes to an hour, which is okay. And they did, "Fallen Angel," "Ride the Wind," which are 2 of my all-time favorite Poison songs. So not bad. Then we get into, so like I was saying before, Poison or Motley Crue and Def Leppard, they rotate on who's last, but they're essentially both the headliners. So on this particular show, Motley Crue was on second to last, and their set list was pretty much no big surprises if you've seen Motley before. This is my 10th time seeing Motley Crue live, and they have 11 non-negotiable songs. If you ever look at their set list for the last umpteen, since 97 onwards, they have 11 songs where if they're going to do a full set list, they do those 11 songs, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's Live Wire, Shout the Devil, Looks That Kill, Home Sweet Home, Wild Side, Girls, 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 Don't Go Away, Mad Just Go Away, Same Old Situation, Dr. Feelgood, Kickstart My Heart, and Primal Scream. So they do those 11 songs, and they know that they do those 11 songs, the crowd's going to leave fairly happy. The casuals, for sure, the casuals, and possibly the diehards. A diehard like myself of Motley Crue, I kind of expect them to do that. Like, I'm not going to be like, hey, why'd you do Girls, Girls, Girls for the millionth time? It's like, of course, I understand, I get it. A lot of the crowd wants them to do that song, and it's not a bad song. Love that song. Are there Motley songs that I like more? Yeah. Are there songs that I prefer? Yeah, but I get why they're not going to do those, because it makes sense. Like, Afraid's my all-time favorite Motley Crue song. I don't expect them to do Afraid on this tour or any future tour, despite that being a single off Generation Swine, the lead single too. But yeah, the casuals would not know Generation Swine, only the diehards would. And then even then, the diehards debate, how much they like or not like that album. So yeah, they do those, but for me, the highlight with this tour, or this Motley Crue set list, is they do a medley after they do the Dirt before the medley, which is one of the newer songs, and it's the lead single off the Dirt soundtrack, their latest release. I love that song. A lot of people don't, but I love that song. Sounded amazing live, and yes, they had the pre-recorded tracks with Machine Gun Kelly, because he wasn't there in person, so you had to do some improv there. But yeah, then they go into a medley, and in the medley, they do Rock and Roll Part 2, Smoke in the Boys Room, White Punks on Dope, which is a song off New Tattoo, which is one of my all-time favorite Motley Crue albums, New Tattoo. And they do Helter Skelter, Anarchy in the UK. Yeah, and all these songs are covers in this medley. And White Punks on Dope was a cover track that they recorded, but was on a track on one of their full-length studio albums back in 2000. And yeah, it was just really cool to see. They seem like they're having some sort of audio issue from like a sound engineer or something in the mix of the show. Like, there's some sort of ringing sound, but it went away very quickly within seconds. That's something I did notice. But yeah, and then they had, before they played Dr. Feelgood, TNT Terror on Tinseltown played in the background again with the backing a tape. And I gotta say, the Saints of Los Angeles performance that they did on the show, that track sounded amazing live. I wish I had my camera out and filmed it as they were playing it, because that was one of the best renditions I've ever heard of that song live. Sounded so good. Yeah, and then the rest sounded pretty much like you would expect them, to perform live in terms of the quality. Say what you will about Vince Neil's voice. I think his voice, he was, they say, oh, he's lost his voice. Well, Vince has never been the world's greatest singer. Go back 20, plus years ago on the New Tattoo tour. Do you think he sounded great then? What about 05 tour? Some people say, oh, he sounded better in the 05 tour than he did 2000, but he still didn't sound that great. But even the band members and behind the music admitted when they picked him out, they didn't think he was that great of a singer. But the thing is, he's the guy that sang these songs originally, and that's what people want to see and hear. And, there's a lot of diehards like myself that go, well, we love our John Crosby as lead singer, blah, blah, blah. Wasn't he a great singer? But I get it. You got to cater towards these casuals. and these casuals want to see the original lineup, and they want to see Vince in the band, and they don't want to see, someone else drumming. They want to see Tommy Lee. Something I will point out about this Motley Crue show is Tommy Lee, where was his drum solo? They didn't give him a spot to do a drum solo. I mean, Ricky Rocket is doing a drum solo for the Poison set list, but Tommy Lee's not doing a drum solo for this tour. And I feel like the stadium tour, like that would have really highlighted it, if they could have come out with something cool for Tommy to do as a drum solo to really put a stamp and make this stadium tour that much more memorable. But nonetheless, I do like how they, Motley Crue, they pretty much do a full set list for the most part. I mean, if Motley Crue was touring, by themselves with maybe one opener in an arena, this set list wouldn't be much different. They might have done maybe one or two more songs, if that. And then maybe Tommy would have done a drum solo, but when I saw him on the final tour in Chula Vista, he didn't do a drum solo because the venue wouldn't accommodate the drum solo he was doing at the time for that tour. So he didn't do the drum solo on every show on that tour. But I gotta say I was very overall pleased with Motley Crue's show and their set list. And just it was great to see him back. And say what you want about backing tracks or Vince's voice. As for me, as long as there's some sort of live element and the band is playing their instruments and just trying their best, then that says something. And I felt like each band member was putting in some effort, and it worked out overall pretty good. Then we get into the final band to hit the stage, which was Def Leppard. Going back to what I was saying earlier, I like it when bands I don't know that well are doing a show in front of me and they do a set list and there's songs that, I didn't know. And, of course I know the big hits, but if they're doing songs where, okay, I didn't know about this song or that song because I never really paid attention to the band, and then that song sounds great live. Now it makes me want to check out the band that much more. That's what happened with Def Leppard. I literally could name you just maybe the 5 big hits of Def Leppard, and then whatever else, and Photograph and Rock of Ages and Armageddon It and Animal. I've heard all those songs on the radio a billion times. And, it's just one of those things where, I was like, okay, so there's roughly about a dozen songs that they're going to do that I never heard before or barely heard before. And sure enough, gets into the first song, they hit the stage and I'm just blown away. I'm like, wow, that sounded amazing live. And I go, okay, that's one song. We still got the rest of the set list, and I knew they were doing around 16, 17 songs, each night. So let's not get too excited. Then it gets to the second song and I'm like, whoa, I haven't heard this song yet. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so far we're 2 for 2. Then it gets to the third song, which is Animal, which, okay, I know that one sounded amazing live. So now we're 3 for 3. Then it gets to the next song, which is Fooling. Know that song. I've heard it on the radio. Sounded great live. So now we're 4 for 4. And I'm thinking, gee, okay, they're looking really good here. They're sounding good here. All these songs they're doing are great. Then they go into Armageddon. It sounded amazing live. Blew me away. I'm like, okay, now we're 5 for 5. Okay, then they're like, okay, we're going to go into, this new song off the new album called Kick. And I'm like, okay, a lot of the, bandwagon or casual Def Leppard fans are, complaining that they heard rumors that they're doing a lot of new songs, a lot of songs off their latest new record, and that they didn't like it and they just wanted to hear the hits. And for me, as someone getting into them, I kind of like that, because I'm gonna hear those hits eventually on the radio or something. But do these one-off tracks, it's gonna make me go, okay, uh, I didn't know about that one, but now I know about it, and if it's good, it's good. If it's not, oh well. But if it's good, then it's all the more reason to like the band even more. So yeah, apparently the first two tracks they did were off the new album. You know what? Let me go grab it because I bought it at the stadium. Um, yeah, so this is the new album, and yeah, so they did yeah, the first track was, yeah, off the new album, and then the second track, Let It Go, I guess was not. But anyways, um yeah, so correction there. But yeah, um so it was just really good. And so they do Kick, and it's an okay song. It wasn't as memorable as the first five. Then they do Love Bites. That was okay. Then eventually they go into this acoustic thing, which honestly, that was the low point for me on their live show. It wasn't, wow, but it wasn't bad either. Then they do Rocket, which gets me back in the mood to really rock out. Um, then eventually Rick Allen does this amazing drum solo, and then there's like this uh, guitar solo, instrumental, whatever you want to call it, part. I don't know if that was an actual song or I don't know if they do instrumental songs, but it was really cool sounding nonetheless. And I had to whip out my phone and record that. Then, um, yeah, they go into Hysteria and then, pour some sugar on me, Rock of Ages photograph, and wrap up the show. And overall, I was like, wow, this is really good. I was really impressed by Def Leppard. The sound was on point. The production was on point. And when I say sound, I mean like sound engineering, like there's no technical issues. The band sounded on point and very mechanical, not in a bad way, but just hitting those notes right when they needed to. Um, yeah, I would consider seeing Def Leppard again live for sure. And I honestly, after seeing their live show, I would consider, well, I'm going to, unwrap this and listen to it, sit down and listen to it all the way through. They were selling this and the Dirt soundtrack at the stadium for $15, but for another $5, you got a raffle ticket to win an autographed guitar, and it's a guitar autographed by Def Leppard and Motley Crue. And then the proceeds went to a children's hospital, so I couldn't argue with that. It was great to help out the kids in the hospital. And so I thought, you know what, I already own the Dirt soundtrack. Why don't I buy this and donate some money to the children's hospital? And icing on the cake, be entered to win a guitar autographed by both headlining acts. So, yeah, I'll listen to this, and then I'll either love it or think it's whatever with the rest of the songs on there. But honestly, after seeing their live show, I'll consider buying like a greatest hits album, and then maybe one or two other albums. I don't know how much past that, but this was a good kind of getting acquainted with Def Leppard for me. And yeah, great performance, blew the roof off the stadium, so to speak. And yeah, this stadium tour was totally worth it overall. Classless Act was forgettable. Joan, Jett was whatever. But, Poison, great. And then the two headlining acts were phenomenal. And so, I mean, just those three bands alone are worth the price of the ticket to the stadium tour. Uh, some people are saying they spent $300 for a good seat to this. I paid a whole lot less than that, and you know, I think it was worth it. And if you are on a super tight budget, or um, having second thoughts about the tour, the nosebleeds for this show were $30, 30 some odd dollars, and I would say if that's all you can afford, then by all means go and you will have a good time. So there you have it. There's my thoughts on this. And if there's anything I missed, I'll probably throw in the comments down below. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.